gentlemen. Good evening, everybody. It's your boy Brian Forbes. We are here live on the Black Factor. And let me start by saying welcome and thank you to all of my regular listeners. I appreciate you for coming in and doing what you do and making it possible for us to all enjoy what this show entails. For my YouTube people, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. For all of my people who want to go to YouTube, please go over and join the Black Factor family and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to hit the like button and all that other good stuff. We're on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, y'all, along with Facebook. Also, Smooth Radio family, my man DJ Shorty Smooth over there. Hello, y'all. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. That's my Also Smooth family over there. If you want to get that app to add to your phone, you can listen in as you roll. Check it out on Play Store and on iTunes. My man, Ambassador Kevin Neville, what's going on, brother? I see you. Thank you for checking in. So, y'all, tonight's show is a very important, very, very important show. And I encourage you, if necessary, please share this information to someone that you feel may or may not be in a situation, because we just don't know, and that within itself is actually the problem. Tonight's show, we're going to deal with suicide and depression. Now, there's a reason why I'm covering this particular topic tonight. It has come to my attention. Good evening, Robert Marshall. Thank you for checking in, my brother. It's good to see you in here kicking it with us. Thank you for hanging out. This particular show is specifically drawn toward men, and particularly men of color. Even though the reason I'm doing this show is because of another man whom I knew. It was to my misfortune, and this show is, by the way, dedicated to him. His name is Dave Cook. On this weekend, I spent from Thursday to Monday in Phoenix, Arizona, at a dance event. For those of you from my Steppin' family who are familiar with where I was, and that was for the Phoenix Jam. We were able to get our dance on, and we had a really good time. And we broadcast from my other show, Inside Steppin'. While we were there, I made it my business. And the reason I wanted to get there early was because I made it my business. Yes. My producer lady, y'all know how she is. She got 50,000 questions while I'm broadcasting. Anyway, I made it my business to get there early. I got there early because there is, and for many of you who know me, know that I make jewelry. And in the process of making my jewelry, I have a supplier out there who supplies me with equipment and materials, the stones that I use to create my beautiful jewelry, some of the stuff I make. And so I could not reach him by phone. So we got there on Thursday, and we rented a car, and we drove out to his house, which is probably about 30 miles from Phoenix. And we got out there, and I rang his doorbell, and there was no answer. But I was curious. I hadn't talked to him, in a few months. And I said, well, couldn't reach him by phone. So I looked around the house, and I figured, well, all of his stuff is still here. I could tell it was his stuff. I said, so he just probably is not at home. Maybe he got his phone changed, lost his phone, anything could have happened. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and we'll go back into the city, and I'll call out. I left a note on the door, and hopefully, he would return my call. So Friday afternoon, I received a text message from his wife, beautiful woman, wonderful person, to tell me, and I'm going to actually read the message that was sent to me from her. It just occurred to me to do this, strangely enough. She sent me this message. She said, wait a minute, y'all. I gotta put my glasses on. Y'all know I can't see. She sent me this message. She said, this is Dave's wife, Idri. Hi, Brian. And sorry, but I don't remember your wife's name. Sorry I missed you yesterday. I want to let you know that Dave passed away back in January. He lost his battle with depression and took his life. I'm sorry to tell you this way, but talking about it is still too hard. He really enjoyed your friendship. Please feel free to text me anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, that is and was at that very moment a very devastating blow for me. Now, myself and Dave, our relationship was brief but quality. Here's a man who touched my life because he taught me something. When I first ventured into the jewelry business, Dave was the person that I bought my equipment from to actually shape my stones and create my jewelry. And he showed me how to use the equipment that he sold me prior to selling it to me. And that is one of the things that has allowed me to be creative in my craft. His wife, on the other hand, is also into the jewelry business, and she creates some beautiful wrapped silver pieces, and she wanted to learn silversmithing. So while I was there, I in turn taught her how to create silver settings, silver plated settings for her jewelry. So we developed a very, very fond and powerful friendship. So it was very upsetting to me when I realized that I couldn't reach him and then to get this news. So it prompted me to think about what we all deal with in society, and that being a lot of people are very depressed and deal with this thing, and you just don't know where a person is. And I say all the time, and I've said it on this show as well as on Inside Stepping, that we have to treat each other better because you don't know where a person really is. And, usually it's those people that you don't, that seem to be always happy and everything is okay, and they're just not. And, most of the time we don't ask how somebody is really doing, particularly men. When is the last time you stopped and asked a man? And, especially ladies, a black man, when is the last time you asked him how he was doing? Was he okay? Depression affects an estimated 1 in 15 adults. So we're not just speaking in this terms of just men. We're talking about just adults. 1 in 15 adults. That's 6.7% of the population in any given year. 1 in 6 people, 16.6%, will experience depression at some time in their life. Depression can occur at any time, but on average, it first appears during the late teens to mid-20s. Women are more likely than men to experience depression. Some studies show that 1/3 of women will experience a major depressive episode in their lifetime. There is a high degree of heritability, approximately 40%, when first-degree relatives, parents, children, siblings have depression. So, you can actually somewhat inherit the state of depression. Environment has a lot to do with why we behave the way that we do. And you have to think about it this way. Our behaviors are sometimes dictated by our emotions. And so when you're in a depressed mood, what will you or won't you do that could cause that situation to remain in a bad way? Depression symptoms can vary from mild to severe and can include. Now, let me tell you, I'm gonna read this list to you because I want you all, as much as I've had people to touch my life, I do these shows because I'm trying to impart information and to help others and to help touch other people's lives as well. And if we are able to help one person with this broadcast, then I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied that somebody's life was either changed, saved, or touched in a way that the information, the seeds that I plant, was able to reverse their feeling of needing to take their own life or feel better about themselves. Because, self-esteem is a critically important part of how we keep ourselves from becoming so severely depressed that we feel as though we need to take our own lives. A lot of people do this thing, and it's funny because it doesn't matter. Your socioeconomic background really does not matter. There are people who are very well off. There are people who are wealthy. If you all remember that guy, Anthony Bourdain, that was on CNN, who took his life. He traveled the world, ate good food, did all these different things, but he suffered from depression. And he took his own life. And a lot of people would say, wow, he had a great life. He was doing all the things I wished I could do. If I were in his position, I wouldn't do that. But it's funny how we can all see ourselves in somebody else's shoes, but we have a hard time seeing ourselves in our own. And that's something we need to learn to embrace, is who we are, and be able to uh, learn to live with who we are and how we do our thing. And when we know better, we do better. So depression symptoms can be and include feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure in activities once enjoyed, changes in appetite, weight loss or gain unrelated to dieting, wow, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, loss of energy or increased fatigue, increase in purposelessness, physical activity, inability to sit still, pacing, hand wringing, or slowed movements or speech. These actions must be severe enough to be observed by others. So sometimes we don't pay attention to one another. And the fact is, we should pay more attention, especially to the people we consider to be our friends, people whom we care about. You have to pay attention to these things. Now, it doesn't mean all the time that that's what it is, but sometimes it's just necessary for us to make sure that our people are okay. Dennis McCullum says, one may ask, how are you doing? But does the person really want a truthful answer? They just want a simple answer, everything is okay. And Dennis, I agree with that, because that's the gaslighting that we do to one another. And we don't genuinely care. And sometimes we don't take the time to find out if our friends are really okay. Feeling worthless or guilty, difficulty thinking, concentrating, or making decisions, thoughts of death or suicide. So see, all of these are symptoms of the potential, or symptoms of depression with the potential to do self-harm. Symptoms must last at least 2 weeks and must represent a change in our previous level of functioning for a diagnosis of depression. Because, y'all, there is clinical depression and then there's situational depression. Sometimes a situation that we're in or a circumstance that we're under will cause us to feel some sort of way for a short time, and then we get over it, because we all go through emotional changes. We all have things that we have to deal with, and sometimes situations, especially in relationships, they start with sadness, then anger, and then action. There's all kinds of psychological things, and I'm not a clinician. I don't know all of the ins and outs, and I don't know the details. I do know that if a person is feeling any of the things that I'm talking about tonight, please, please, please get help of some sort. Purpose Driven says seasonal depression as well. Absolutely. Thank you for adding that, because that is a fact. Leah Holmes says environment could definitely play a part with depression and anxiety. Absolutely. We sometimes hold on to what we go through in our hearts that's not positive, and all of a sudden one day you're just in a place where you just can't function. And that's absolutely right. And in fact, as much as we may ignore the next person and their feelings and what they're going through, we very often ignore ourselves. And that is probably worse than us ignoring other people. And we have to, be more mindful about self-preservation and self-help and self-care. Not enough of us exercise that. And then sometimes self-care even means that you have to cut people loose. You have to sometimes cut people off. You have to sometimes change your environment. Sometimes you have to change your situation. You have to change your season. You have to change the things and the people around you. You may have to leave that job, whatever it is, but your life literally can depend on it. Now, clinical depression is defined as mental health disorder characterized by persistently depressed mood or loss of interest in activities causing significant impairment in daily life. Possible causes include a combination of biological, psychological, and social sources of distress. Increasingly, research suggests these factors may cause changes in brain function, including altered activity of certain neural circuits in the brain. So see, there's also a physical harm that can come to you through your psychological well-being or non-well-being. If you're not careful, the feelings that you have can affect you internally to the point of illness. And that can, within itself, is yet another problem, because we have enough trouble just trying to eat right and do the right thing every day. The persistent feeling of sadness or loss of interest that characterizes major depression can lead to a range of behavioral and physical symptoms. These may include changes in sleep, appetite, energy level, concentration, daily behavior, or self esteem. Depression can also be associated with thoughts of suicide. See, the other thing is the depression itself can cause people to see themselves in a light that is less, that's just not good. And there are people, and I want y'all to pay attention to this. There are people who walk around every day that literally spend all of their time on a cell phone, either talking to somebody on social media. They spend all of their time with a television on. They spend all of their time being what I refer to as distracted. These distractions are a necessity for some people in order that they don't deal with who they are or their real life or the things that would cause them to be depressed. And I guess to some degree, there has to be a pass given in that regard because it's necessary for them. If that's what works for them. But one of the things in the black community in particular that I would love to see change is that we get away from the stigma of not seeking professional help in regard to depression or other issues that cause us to psychologically our health not to be as strong as it should be. And I think that there are these stigmas of having a therapist or a psychiatrist or somebody that you can sit down and talk to causes a lot of people to remain in ill states that they even truly don't understand. And of course, with healthcare being what it is, it's very difficult to do because it's not cheap. But it makes you wonder, just as an example, and I don't know what prompted this particular situation, but those of you who are familiar with the New York shooter on yesterday who shot up a train car and went through a bunch of changes and found out today that this guy had a YouTube page where he ran it and went on about different things. Wonder, did anybody ever ask that guy, how you doing? You all right? What can we do? What can anybody do to help your situation based on what they've heard him, the things that he said on his own show? It's entertainment for the average person. We see these things and we laugh and we joke and we like, oh man, dude, off the chain. Yeah, okay. But is he okay? Well, now we know the answer to that story. I'm going to cover that over the next week, and we're going to see how that pans out, because there may be a story in there that I need to bring forward on the Black Factor. The mainstay of treatment is usually medication, talk therapy, or a combination of the two. Increasingly, research suggests these treatments may normalize brain changes associated with depression. Now, let me also add that when we talk about therapists and psychiatrists and things like that, I think one of the mistakes a lot of us make is that we do sometimes, it's okay to try and help your friends. I do. I mean, because, if somebody calls me, and I have had calls, and they say, hey, man, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, I'm going to be there for them. Why? Because if something did happen to that person, I would feel as though I had an opportunity that I did not take to help them to save their life. So it's better when we reach out to one another. It's better when we try as hard as we can to make sure everyone else is okay. Now, don't get it twisted, because there's some people out here who will gaslight you, and because some people are starving for attention and they'll do anything to get it. Some people attempt suicide, and there are those who genuinely understand that they don't want to be here anymore. And I'm not in a position to say that somebody doesn't or shouldn't make a choice for themselves, but I think that there is a reason for why they're where they are. And if they need help, then they should seek it. At least talk to somebody. I always encourage men in particular, because we can be very reclusive sometimes. I'm one. I encourage men to have or find a mentor. Find somebody, find a friend, a homie, a cab driver, somebody to talk to, somebody who will listen to what it is that you need to say, because there are people who need someone to to just let their feelings out. There are men walking around here right now today who have all kinds of feelings, anger, depression, sadness, anxiety, and they have nowhere to unload all of that. They can't trust the people around them with that information. Poppy Forbes just replied to Leah Holmes on here. She says, don't talk to a friend. See, my point being, while we do need friends to talk to, everybody's not your friend. And because many people know this, they are going to hold on to that information and retain it, and it becomes a weight. It becomes an albatross around your neck, and you walk around with it day in and day out, and you don't know what to do with it. You can't cast it off. You can't pass it along. You're stuck with it. And before long, it becomes too heavy. And because you cannot sometimes speak with a friend, it is unfortunate, because I've had people around me who I personally wanted to trust. But I am later found out that I was glad that I didn't, because they were the type of people who would take information that you provided to them and use it against you. They would turn around and make a mockery of you with it. This is why it is so difficult, especially for men, and even more especially for black men, to convey these thoughts, feelings, and information onto others. Therefore, it becomes the burden that people don't want to talk about, the burden that others don't understand. Other men understand it, but rarely do men sit down and have these discussions to discern this information between them, to talk about this information, to share the thoughts and ideas. And I guarantee you, if the men sat down together and had these conversations, they would be amazed at how much they had in common. But again, that's why you must pay, unfortunately, a therapist, because in a professional capacity, they're not allowed by law to share that information. And they are also equipped with the information and the education to help a situation, to help to make a person use their introspection, talk out their issues, and work through them. Now, situational depression. Situational depression is a short-term stress-related type of depression. It can develop after you experience a traumatic event or series of events. Situational depression is a type of adjustment disorder. It can make it hard for you to adjust to your everyday life following a traumatic event. And I think situational depression is a lot easier to work through, but nonetheless, no less difficult. Is depression so prevalent in the black community that it has become normalized? This is a question that I have myself. This is something that I asked myself while preparing for this show. I want to know, have we, because I happen to know a lot of black men, women as well, but I'm focusing more here on the men. Have we become so accustomed to depression, to ill feelings, that we don't even recognize it or do anything with it? Do we ignore the feelings that we have, because if we say something about it to someone, then we look weak, then we're made to feel inferior, or we're made to feel as though what we feel doesn't matter? Has it become so normalized that he be all right? He a little upset. He be okay. Leah Holmes says, yes, that is why so many black men self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. Leah, you are 100% on point right there. They don't want to tell anyone what they are really feeling inside. Men go through things too. They hurt too. They cry too. Absolutely. And this is absolutely my point. There is a point where everybody will break. People have breaking points. Everyone does. The question becomes, how far do we bend before we break? Black men go through twice as much scrutiny, often in the workplace and in life in general. When we see the news, what do we see? When they talk about the first, whenever we see it, they talk about a criminal, the first thing they want to do, they plaster a black man's face up. White guys, not so much. They're very careful about how they explain a situation, about the way they describe a situation. A young black man with a gun he's a hardened criminal. A young white man with a gun, oh, he's just a kid. And look at Kyle Rittenhouse. Oh, he's just a kid. If that had been a black man with that gun, he'd have been a completely different story. Philando Castile, a man walking around legally permitted to carry a firearm in the passenger seat of a vehicle, minding his own business, shot to death by a police officer simply because he was a black man and the cop was in fear of his life. I'm sorry, y'all. These are the types of things that would have never happened if Philando Castile was a white guy. We know this. That's a fact. We're not going. It's not debatable. See, we have double standards in this country, and black men fall victim to those double standards. So not only do we have to deal with the day-to-day issues that cause depression, we have to deal with all of the societal ills that come with what the perception of what we might be is. That is also a burden to a black man in America. And any white person who thinks for 1 second that they have a license to explain or talk about this on any level, stop yourself. Or as a matter of fact, you spend 5 minutes in a black man's shoes, then you come talk to me. And if you can't do that, don't talk to me. There's nothing you can say to me about it until you've been me. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt and the hat. There's nothing you can say to me. So this is what we have to deal with, and what adds to our depression, our situational depression, our environmental depression, our psychological depression. All of this is part of the program. And then you wonder why black men are often so angry. We have nowhere to place these feelings. Lenore Proctor says black people face different social pressures that increase the risk of depression. Absolutely correct. That is 100% on point. Then the question becomes, are some of the behaviors learned and unintentional exhibited by many black men as a result of depression or bipolar disorder? Do black men act out in ways that seem harsh? Absolutely. A lot of it is because of these situations and the information that they've held on to that they can't do anything with. Sometimes men are also medicated. Let's look at black men again. Let's talk about the diabetes. Let's talk about the high blood pressure. Let's talk about the fact that some of these medications cause erectile dysfunction, cause depression and other feelings. If you ever listen to some of those ads on television, and when they talk about certain medications and it says, if you have suicidal thoughts, call your doctor. Like, really? There are so many things that we're dealing with that it is unbelievable. It's amazing we're able to walk around every day without doing what my man did yesterday. He shot up a whole train of people. Fortunately, no one died. But nonetheless, it's a tragic event. It's a tragic incident. And what's even more tragic is here's a guy who was basically a ticking time bomb of potentially depression, anxiety, stress. Now, I'm not giving him a pass. Let's also, thank you, producer lady, not forget, we're dealing with food riddled with chemical compounds. Y'all know in the Black Factor, and for those of you who don't know, yeah, I know. For those of you who don't know, I haven't mentioned this in quite a while. I wrote a book some time ago called The Black Factor. That's what prompted this show. In this book, I discuss at length particular chemicals that are in our food. I encourage people to, when you go to the grocery store, there's a thing called eating from the outside. You all learn this. Everything down those aisles is packaged and processed. But the best way to shop for your food is around the outside of the store. That meaning, if you go into a store, the very first thing you usually run into is produce, meats, your vegetables, and things like that. Shop in that section. You run into your fish, then your poultry. Shop in that section. You run into your meats, your beef, your pork. I'm not a pork fan, but and then you move around from other areas to other areas of the store on the outside, because those are the products that will keep you alive. Those other things, they're riddled with chemicals. And I'm not saying I don't eat from the aisles. I do. But we live in a country where these things are more acceptable and more prevalent than most other countries. A lot of the stuff that we eat every single day, literally, is banned in other countries. It's outlawed. They don't even, if you put it in the food, it's against the law. But we eat it every day. And you also remember this too. We have the #1 rate of homicide of any country in the world. Think about it. What other country do you go to and people are outside killing each other, and you get reports on the news, 33 were killed today in the city. Over the weekend, we lost 55 people. And it's not just in one city, it's across this country. All of that is part of this. All of that is part of the situational and psychological depression and anxiety that we all suffer from, y'all. This is real stuff. And then we're not even going to get into the bipolar part of it. Those who are like on a high one day and then down the next. It's crazy. Susu Watson says, sometimes I have crying spirits at times. Yesterday I prayed and talked to the Lord because of how things are coming about. Some of our own people are hurting each other. Because of depression, that's why they must ask God for his protection, and we must go out on our day, and when we make it back home, thank the Lord. Absolutely. For my praying folks out there, pray your way through the day. Ask, like my grandmama, rest her soul. She used to always tell me, you having a problem? Ask God to help you. Now, this is something that I found on social media, on a social media post recently. And it goes, I am usually not a very public person. If you've met me, I usually am joking, having fun, supporting and loving on people, and usually I'm everyone's biggest cheerleader. I tend to take on the role of a caretaker for family, friends, and strangers, but life brings us lumps and bumps. Well, today was a minor breaking point for me, and I thought, if I feel like this, who else is feeling the same way? I want to thank you all for your response to my post. I will share later, but there are legal implications right now, not jail time. Without going into details, I'm dealing with a major situation right now. This was not a call for help or some attempt for attention, but more about bringing attention to challenges that me and other brothers are going through. I was so glad that they wrote this, because it's very important, and y'all pay attention. What I would request from all of you, us, is to make it a point to reach out to your strong friends. Now, you notice he said, and I want y'all to pay attention, strong friends. We all have those. We all have those friends, those super strong people that are always taking care of everybody else. Reach out to your strong friends and make sure they're doing okay. More specifically, reach out to the men in your life. You would never know and cannot tell behind their smiles, public demeanor, and treatment of others they are hurting. They appear to be okay and life is fine, but a number of men are struggling with challenges in their lives. Many of them do not have a place to share their pain, pressures, frustrations, and depressing thoughts. Many of them view themselves in ways you couldn't imagine. They are overwhelmed by their failure, frailties, finances, faults, family, and many other situations. I know women have their own challenges in life. We discuss them, defend and support you. Celebrate your growth and tell folks about how inspiring your recovery looks and feels on you. We, I love and appreciate women and your power, perseverance, and presence. But when was the last time? Now, y'all pay particular attention to this. When was the last time you or someone you know did that for a man? When was the last time you asked your husband, your son, your father, your brother, your uncle, your nephew, your coworker, your neighbor, your church member, or male friend how he was doing, really doing? Beyond that, I'm good response. You know, everybody, oh, I'm good. I'm good. Beyond that, how is he feeling or how is he dealing with life and its challenges? How often can they show vulnerability in front of you without ridicule, dismissal, or adding more pressure? You think about that. You know, you got people who will say stuff, oh man, I'm feeling some kind of way. Oh man, you be all right, bro. You be all right. Or, why didn't you call me? You just not calling me. You want to call me and talk about this? And you should have been. See, that's that pressure. That's just an example. How often can he vent without being judged, mocked, or his trust being violated by sharing his struggles? Y'all think about that. Everybody got somebody that they need to be checking on. I don't care who you are. I know you got somebody you need to be checking on. If you are checking in on them, great. I salute and want to thank you publicly. But I promise you, most men are programmed to eat, drink, smoke, buy, sex, work, fight, drive, or curse away their challenges. Be tough, don't cry, shake it off, figure it out, etc. And it has not been working. We tend to cope in some unhealthy ways and end up hurting the people around us or ourselves. Do me a favor, hug a black man. See, and you think about that. When a person gets to the point where they are willing to harm themselves because of their feelings, it's not just them being harmed. They just are not aware of the damage that is also being done because they are no longer here. You think my friend is not in pain because her husband took his life? I'm in pain for her. I'm in pain because of it. Hug the ones you love. Lead and live with, but also hug some you don't. And if you really want to see the magic of love, hug some you don't know. Whether you are a man or a woman, straight or gay, black, white, brown, yellow, red, or blue, hug a black man and tell him that he matters. And that whatever he is carrying with him, he's not alone. If you cannot do anything more than pray for him, do that. If you can help him, help him. If the hug is all you got to give, then give that. But please let them know they are seen, needed, and loved. As for me, I will be in touch. Details coming soon, and pray for me. So, those are heartfelt words from a person who's going through things, who sees what I see. He goes on to say, he's blessed to have a support system, but not a lot of men do or know that they have one. So let them know today, tonight, or tomorrow. Why? One of my friends just shared that her cousin jumped off a bridge this week. I wonder what demons he was fighting. My friend told me to focus on me right now, and I'm typing this post is helping. But it didn't want any other person, male or female, else going through anything to not get the love and support that I got today. I ain't okay, but I will be. So that is a writing from an individual who I just happened to find on social media about 2 weeks ago. And did I know that I would need that today? No, I didn't. but the Most High knew. Now, on average, for the adjusted for age, the annual U.S. suicide rate increased 30% between 2000 and 2020, from 10.4 to 13.5 suicides per 100,000 people. In 2018, 14.2 people per 100,000 died by suicide, the highest rate recorded in more than 30 years. Suicide is death caused by injuring oneself with the intent to die. Suicide attempt is when someone harms themselves with any intent to end their life, but they do not die as a result of their actions. Many factors can increase the risk for suicide or protect against it. Suicide is connected to other forms of injury and violence. For example, people who have experienced violence, including child abuse, bullying, or sexual violence, have a higher suicide risk. Being connected to family and community support and having easy access to health care can decrease suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Although suicide rates have increased 30% between 2000 and 2018 and declined in 2019 and 2020, suicide is the leading cause of death in the United States. With 45,979 deaths in 2020, this is about one death every 11 minutes, y'all. The number of people who think about or attempt suicide is even higher. In 2020, an estimated 12.2 million American adults seriously thought about suicide, 3.2 million planned a suicide attempt, and 1.2 million attempted suicide. Suicide and suicide attempts affect the health and well-being of friends, loved ones, co-workers, and the community. When people die by suicide, their surviving family and friends may experience shock, anger, guilt, symptoms of depression or anxiety, and may even experience thoughts of suicide themselves. So, while we are the caring people, continue to care. Before you go and take your own life, think about those people that you've been strong for in the past. And I guess at that point, it's some sort of a breaking point where they no longer want to be strong for anyone, not even themselves. I had the misfortune of having a distant relative kill his wife and then commit suicide. One will never know what prompted that. One will never know what the thought process behind that was or the injury psychologically. All I know is, y'all, we got to do better. We got to do better for one another. No one knows the pain that so many hold and harbor. No one knows what it is that we need to do to take care of one another. We are not clinicians. We are not doctors. We are not psychiatrists. We're not therapists. Most of us anyway. I may have one or two on here. But the point is that just check on your people. Ask the men in your life, are they okay? Be able to let them trust in you, their feelings and thoughts. Do y'all realize how much better the world would be if men, people, women, children could confide in people around them and be able to convey their feelings without ridicule, judgment, or dismissal? Do y'all know what a wonderful world we would live in? And how much easier it would be for people to make adjustments and be more productive and be stronger for their families and do the things that need to be done in this world? Just checking on your people. Genuinely, seriously, checking on your people. Not that gaslighting. Not like Dennis McCullum on here said, they just want to hear the compulsory answer, oh, I'm good. We all, and I ain't going to lie, I'm guilty of the I'm good scenario. That's the funny part. I'm sitting here with this serious topic, and I'm laughing because I'm guilty. Sometimes I'm not good. And the more honest we can be with each other, the better we'll all be. This show is dedicated to my friend Dave Cook. I'm going to put this information up here because it's necessary. I want you all to see this, because if I'm reaching somebody out there and they need this information, I want you to have it. That right there, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, y'all. If you're feeling some kind of way and you need somebody to reach out to, even if you can't be the one, give it to somebody else who may need this. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, y'all. 24 hours a day. And it's available for everyone. It is free and it is confidential. Y'all use it if you need to. I say smoke them if you got them, right? And last but not least, before I go, I want to put this up to my friend Dave. I want him to rest in peace. My prayers are with his wife. I wish we could all do better by one another, y'all. I really do. I wish there was something, some way that we could all do better for each other. The world would be so much more of a better place. I'm not going to lie, I'm not optimistic because I know what kind of people I got to deal with every day. And let me tell you, there's a lot going on in a lot of people's lives. And there's a particular gentleman watching this show tonight, and I want to give him, he knows who he is. I want to give him a shout out for being a man today and picking up the phone and calling me to straighten out some beef. You got my respect, brother. Let's try and maintain that for one another. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude tonight's show. Tell a black man that you love him, hug him, give him something. Let him know that everything is going to be all right, even when he pretends that everything already is. And I want everybody to have themselves a great evening. Thank you for participating in this show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. And everybody have yourselves a great weekend. And I'm going to eat my chocolate chip cookies and take my ass to bed. Good night, y'all. Peace.